Fyodor Dostoyevsky's Crime and Punishment. Let's get this started with. Alright, part 3 of Fyodor Dostoyevsky's Crime and Punishment. Let's go. Alright, today we're just going to have to go ahead and do a little summary of part 3. Now, part 3 is interesting. Not so interesting that I can pretty much say everything in a sentence. Raskolnikov gets hallucinations, and then he goes ahead, gets haunted by these little ghosts, and then because of those ghosts are haunting him, he just decides to go ahead and probably decides to go ahead and confess the murder. Longest sentence I've ever said in my entire life. Hey, now, continuing on the real deal here. This confession is pretty much everything to Raskolnikov. Dostoyevsky went ahead and created the character Raskolnikov because he probably wanted to go ahead and see what it'd be like if this guy just went ahead and figured out that his life isn't that pleasant after all, that his life is just a meaningless kind of thing. And of course, with this confession, all that regret, we kind of figured out what kind of road we're headed towards. And of course, with that, we can literally figure out how this thing would go ahead and end up. Raskolnikov almost confesses the murder in the last part, which, unfortunately, I haven't told you guys about. And so I will tell you about now. In the last part 2, in this situation, here we actually figured out that Raskolnikov was so mad that he almost confessed his own murder to the inspector at a pub. Well, that kind of makes sense. He was drunk at the time. However, now, in part 3, we kind of realize that he's literally just regretting it, and that he calls his feeling for Dunya rigid and stupid. Well, something on that sort of line. And, of course, we kind of realize that he's trying to turn himself back into sane mode and probably forget this ordeal and go back to his own life with the money. However, he just can't. Because, well, he's not exactly of an idiot, shall we say. Raskolnikov does great of a job in his life, and Raskolnikov does a great of a job in how he does his stuff. However, I'm guessing that he started regretting that murder. If he could just, go Doctor Strange and turn back time, he'd probably just stop that murder too. Except somehow he would start thinking of ways to murder the poor old woman, and then he wouldn't even want to go ahead and figure out all this Doctor Strange kind of stuff. So, according to the laws of Doctor Strange, then that would mean that this is a pinnacle in time, where if it wasn't for this, and he wouldn't have learned Doctor Strange powers, and then, well, he would have, unfortunately, created a time loop which would destroy the whole world. Now, what would I do in this situation? What would I do? I probably wouldn't even consider murder at all. I would probably consider going ahead and get, a job or something, like a waiter, while you're going ahead and trying to pay off your debts, too. I would thank your parents. I would thank everyone that's trying to help you in your financial situation. Unless they're just making it worse. And I would regret, even if I decided to go ahead and kill the old pawnbroker, I would still kind of regret it and haunt her. Well, she would haunt me. And I would eventually just regret that. And of course, with that, we have a few things to really talk about. Confessions, regrets, and haunts. With all this boiled up into one, we kind of figured that Raskolnikov would eventually call himself sane again. Now, you might think I'm talking nonsense, which most of the time I am. Raskolnikov is just still insane. He literally has a nightmare of the old lady haunting him last night, and of course with that kickstarts the reaction where he goes ahead, wakes up, and realizes, man, I've missed out so much. And that's it. That's Fyodor Dostoyevsky's Crime and Punishment for you. So, until next time, schna'n out, peace, bye-bye, week 3, well, part 3, over. See you guys in week 3, aka part 4 and 5. Booyah!